Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 3 of Grammar Ready with me. Alright, so as usual, we have an editing text with us today. And if you've been watching my past few videos, you would know that it doesn't really matter whether or not you are familiar with the topic of the editing text, which in this case is going to be about jellyfish. Alright, it's going to be about jellyfish. And if you are like me, you're not very familiar with jellyfish or anything about marine life, I will show you today through this video how you would still be able to get everything correct in editing. Because at the end of the day, editing is about grammar, right? And grammar is just a set of rules. It doesn't matter what the topic is about. Okay, so with that in mind, we know that this is a text about jellyfish. Okay, let's begin. So same old. Of these 10 lines here, right, we have 2 of them without any errors. And if you have no errors at all, just put a tick. Okay, nothing new here. Right, so let's begin. Jellyfish are mostly free-swimming marine animals with umbrella-shaped bells and trailing tentacles. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to admit to you very honestly that this is going to be a very, very sciencey, scientific kind of text. It's not going to be easy. What in the world is umbrella-shaped? What in the world are umbrella-shaped bells? I don't even know, right? And trailing tentacles. Okay, comma. Just a few are anchored to the seabed by stalks rather than being mobile. Okay. If you are sharp enough, you will realize that there is a pretty obvious error here in line 1. There's one word that has no reason to be here at all. Alright? And this is the weird word here, just. So you might be thinking, what's wrong with just? Okay, what's wrong with just? The issue with just, alright, pardon me, my circle's a bit too big. Okay, the issue with just is that there's actually a full stop. There's actually a comma here, right? There's actually a comma here. If this were a full stop instead, and this is a capital J, like this, everything would be fine, okay? But in editing, are you allowed to circle the punctuation, change it to a full stop? No, you cannot do that. You cannot change the comma here into a full stop. So I know that the mistake here cannot be about the punctuation mark, but instead it's about the word just. Okay? You rarely see the word just after a comma. It's usually at the start of a sentence. You're starting a new sentence entirely. Okay? So it's quite awkward for it to be here right now. So we're looking instead for another kind of conjunction. Alright? Another kind of conjunction to connect this part of the sentence to this part of the sentence. So what is the left part of the sentence talking about? It's saying that these jellyfish, they are free swimming, correct? They have a lot of freedom, they are swimming everywhere. Okay, and the second part of the sentence, alright, this part here let me just highlight it in blue. This part here, they're saying that however, there are some jellyfish that are actually stuck to the bottom of the seabed. Correct? So actually, the conjunction that we are using here, right, the conjunction that we are supposed to replace, over here, has to show the difference, the contrast between the left sentence here, the left part of the sentence here, and the right part of the sentence here. And the best conjunction to show contrast would very simply be but, B-U-T, but. Okay, this would show the contrast between the first part about jellyfish being free to swim everywhere, and the second part here in blue, which is about some jellyfish, being stuck to the bottom of the seabed. Okay, so the conjunction I've opted for is but. You can also choose although as well. I think that is perfectly fine. Okay, I will accept although as well. Okay, let's continue. But a few are anchored to the seabed by stalks rather than being mobile. Okay, so far so good. The bells pulsate. So the bells are the part of the jellyfish, right? Pulsate to providing propulsion for highly efficient movement. Okay, so there is a pretty obvious error here. Okay, it's actually the word form for this word here, providing. This verb here, providing. Okay. So over here, the correct word form, I will not belabor this. This is quite a simple error, okay, should be provide. Okay, just remember, when you see verb groups that start with to, alright, to infinitive form, to be very technical with you, you can refer to your green grammar book as well. Alright, this over here has to be in the base form. Alright, we want the base form of this verb, which in this case is provide and not providing. Providing is actually the continuous form of that verb, okay, or the progressive form of that verb. Okay, so we're sticking with to provide, as that's the base form. So the error with line 2 will be a word form error, alright? So the Bell's pulsate to provide propulsion. So propulsion means to move forward at high speeds, alright, for highly efficient movement. Okay, right? So the tentacles of the jellyfish are armed with stinging cells and may be used blah blah blah. Okay, I'll pause here for a while. We'll see whether you can spot the error in line 3. Okay, it's actually over here. Okay, so I've been thinking, what's wrong, Joe? What's wrong, right? Because R over here, let me just highlight it. R over here, you was thinking that, it's present tense, what? So arm should be present tense as well. Nothing wrong with that, right? Actually, unfortunately, you'll be wrong if you were to think that way, because we have to look at this verb group in its entirety. Okay? So this is a very difficult paper, I'll admit to you. But what you need to take note of is that, okay, the right answer for line 3 is armed in its past tense. Pardon my handwriting, it's a bit late already. Armed in its past tense. And you might be thinking, why? Why is it suddenly in the past tense? Right? I'm using the word past tense here, but actually that is strictly speaking not correct. Right? It's just that I don't really wish to confuse you at this stage, but please pay attention to what I'm about to say next. Okay? For passive construction of sentences, alright, for sentences that are passive, alright, let me just use blue over here. Okay, bear with me for a while, this is very technical. For the passive construction of sentences, the verb groups will take the form of be plus whatever verb it is, right? In the eden form. Okay, this is very technical, I warned you, alright? So in be, as we know, can take many forms, right? Commonly we see in English, it would be is, are, was, were, correct? Is, are, was, were, just to name the more basic forms, alright? And the verb here will be arm, right? If I wish to attach, right, arm and transform it into a ed or en kind of participle, I will have to use ed, correct? There's no armament, so it's armed, right? So in this case, since I can only change one word in this line, I will not touch R at all, right? And I will just change the arm, this verb arm, into its eden form, the eden participle, which in this case is armed. So strictly speaking, this is not a past tense, it's not a tense error. No, if anyone tells you this is a tense error, this is not a tense error, right? This is actually, strictly speaking, you call it a verb form error, you can call it a participle error. Some schools they will teach it as past participle. Okay, so it really depends on the school as well. In this case, we just choose to call it just a participle error, eden kind of participle error. Okay, so it's actually, I know it's quite confusing, but actually this part here is still in the present tense. Alright, and strictly speaking, we'll call this present passive. That is the correct way to describe this verb group here, are armed. Alright, it's actually present passive. Alright, so it's not past tense at all. Okay, let's move on. It will get easier, okay, it will get easier with time. So the tentacles are armed with stinging cells and may be used to capture prey and defense against predators. Okay, predators are the bad guys, right? The ones who are hunting down the jellyfish. The stinging cells used by blah blah blah. Okay, so there is already an error in line 4 that should be hopefully quite obvious to you. Okay? And this error here is with the word defense. Okay, so we ask ourselves, right? So first things first, what is the form here? All right, what kind of word is this? This is a noun, right? This is a noun. Okay, this is a noun. Do we really want a noun here, right? Look at the other word here that is with regards to prey. All right, this is actually a verb. Okay, do you really think a noun would make sense here? Actually, we're talking about how the jellyfish can protect itself against the bad guys, right? The predators. So we want a verb. All right, we want a verb. So the verb version of this has to be defend. Defend. All right. This spelling D-E-F-E-N-D. Defend. Okay, not defense. Defense is the noun version. Right. So this is actually a word form error. Okay. WF. Word form error. Okay, let's move on. So the stinging cells used by jellyfish to subdue their prey can injure humans. Okay, seems alright. Thousands of swimmers. Okay, I have no issue with that as well. So right now I would say that line 5 has no issues. If I want to come back and revisit it later, that's possible as well. Okay, so thousands of swimmers are stung every year with effects ranging from mild discomfort and serious blah blah blah. Okay, so as you can tell, okay, this is another passive construction. All right, so we've already talked about this earlier, right? In line number 3 are arms. Okay, so it's getting tougher. Actually, if you notice, this text is written in the passive form a lot. What do I mean? We look at this sentence once again. Thousands of swimmers are stung every year. Okay, so this is the passive way of writing it. The active way of writing it would be, let me just squeeze it aside here. The active way of constructing this sentence would be jellyfish sting thousands of swimmers every year. Okay, but because we are now reversing it, we're doing a passive construction instead. We will say that, the object becomes a subject, right? We'll say that thousands of people are stung. Okay, are stung. Okay, I'm going to go slower here. Same thing as line 3. If you're paying attention earlier, good. This shouldn't be an issue. Are stung. Okay, remember what I said earlier about are armed, right? This one over here, we're looking at the EDEN version, the EDEN form of the verb, the EDEN participle. All right. In this case, is stinged a word? Can I say stinged? No, I can't say stinged, right? So the ED version doesn't really stand here. It's actually just stung. Okay, it's actually just stung. So I will change this to the right answer, which is stung. Okay, my bad, I forgot to circle. Alright, so actually this is the error here. So strictly speaking, let's revisit this. What kind of tense is this? It's actually still in the present tense, correct? Very good. So this is actually present passive. Do not be fooled, there's no past tense here. This is just a participle issue, okay? So are stung every year with effects ranging from mild discomfort and serious injury to even death. Okay, seems alright to me. The small box jellyfish, okay, seems fine, are responsible for many of these deaths. Okay, so line 7 seems okay. I think one common mistake that most of you might make would be that you might maybe change are to the singular version, which is. Let me tell you why this is wrong. Okay, let me tell you why this is wrong. There's no need to do this. Because is this really singular? Ask yourself, is this really singular? Question mark, question mark. Actually, the plural version of jellyfish is still jellyfish. You don't have to say jellyfishes, right? So actually, there's nothing wrong with this being the plural version. In this case, R would be correct. Okay? So this might be the plural version of the word, and R is fine. So because of that, I'm going to put a tick for line 7. But of course, if we can come back to it later, okay? So the smallpox jellyfish are responsible for many of these deaths. Okay, so there is an issue here already. Alright, there's a very big issue here. This is very simple. We should not be wasting too much time on this, alright? We should use the plural version of this, which is these, alright, these. Because over here, we're referring to a plural object, right, which is deaths in its plural version, okay? So in this case, the determiner here has to be THESE, these, alright? So this is quite simple. So when conditions are favorable, jellyfish can form vast swarm, which can be responsible for damaging fishing gear, blah, blah, blah. Okay, something's not right again. Over here, jellyfish can form vast swarm. That's a bit odd, right? So over here, the right answer has to be the plural version of swarm, which is swarms. 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 Alright, so you can imagine that the jellyfish, plural, right, they are forming many different groups of themselves, right? Like big gangs of jellyfish, correct? And there's multiple of them. Alright? So which can be responsible for damaging fishing gear by filling fishing nets. Okay, my apologies. So actually this is just to be clear, this is actually a plural singular kind of error, okay? And sometimes clog the cooling systems of power and desalination plants which draw their water from the sea. Right, so because I've already identified 2 ticks here, I should suspect that line 10 has an error. Correct? So let's try and find the error in line 10 together. So which can be responsible for damaging fishing gear by filling fishing nets and sometimes clog the cooling systems. Okay, so there is an issue with the word form of the verb, clog. Okay, so remember, okay, always look for patterns. Do not read this line in isolation. We read sentences instead of lines, correct? So we go back to the previous line above it, line 9, and we find the verbs there. Okay, I'm going to highlight the verbs in that line in green, okay? Damaging, that's one. Filling, that's one. Fishing nets here, there is a noun, it's not a verb, alright? And clog back here. So you would imagine that there's a pattern, correct? There's a pattern here. So clog should also follow this pattern, correct? Clog should also follow this pattern, this continuous form of the verb, the ing form of the verb, correct? So in this case, right, this is actually a word form error once again. We should be using the continuous ing form, correct? So some schools may call it the progressive form, doesn't really matter. So how do I change clog to this ing form? It will be CLOG-GING. So there's double G's, alright? In fact, there's 3 G's in total in this spelling. Okay, so overall I will rate this text to be a bit more on the difficult side because there are quite a few passive sentences, right, which can really throw you off if you're not familiar with how texts can be written in the passive form. I would say that because this is an upper sec exercise, I would easily rate this a very solid 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 if you're in the upper sec express level. Okay, so the difficulty wise, let's give this a 7 or maybe even an 8, alright, out of 10. Okay, out of 10. So hopefully this text has given you an insight into how passive constructions work, and that you would be no longer confused between how passive sentences work and not necessarily confuse them for past tense all the time. Alright?